I woke up from a text on a Friday, and I woke up from a text saying, good morning, Ottawa wants to officially give you a contract. And I remember I saw it at 7 a.m. before work, and I was just screaming, and I was like, what? Like, there's no way. So I was like, I'm not telling anyone, like, this is not true.
Hello and welcome back to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that brings you inside the world of women's hockey, one story at a time. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and today I'm joined by Emma Bergesen, a defender who made her mark at Mount Royal University, gained pro experience in the SDHL, and is now set to make history as the first Norwegian player in the PWHL after signing with the Ottawa Charge. Emma, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Good. Yes. Excited to hear more or learn more about your story. But before we get into your career, I want to kick things off with a little game that we like to play here on the podcast. It's called Pick One. I'm going to give you two options. And unsurprisingly, you're going to pick one. And all you have to do is pick one that speaks most to you. If there's a story or something like that behind the answer, please feel free to share. But don't overthink, just go with your gut. Are you an early riser or a night owl?
Night owl for sure.
Overtime winner or a game-saving shot block?
Oh, game-saving shot block.
Yeah, there it is. Would you prefer Swedish fika or Tim Hortons coffee run?
Oh, maybe fika.
Yeah, I figured. That's what I've never had fika, but I would have chosen that as well for sure.
Yeah.
Home crowd energy or silencing the away crowd?
Home crowd for sure.
Solo breakaway or would you rather have the absolute perfect assist?
Perfect assist.
Would you prefer to be the underdog or the favorite to beat?
Underdog. I think that's what I've been most of my life. So
Okay, let's keep with that theme. I like that. Okay, so you're packing now for Ottawa. What's a favorite item to bring or a must-have comfort?
Norwegian chocolate.
Okay, okay. Is there a particular brand or that's your go-to for that?
Yeah, it's called the Freya. It's the best chocolate ever.
Okay. Oh, some hot
Yeah.
takes. Okay, that's good. Okay, so now we're talking about some new city essentials as you're moving to Ottawa. Would you prefer to explore parks or are you scouting out new coffee shops?
Ooh, maybe parks.
Okay. Now we're switching to away from home comforts. Are you cooking your own meals or are you ordering takeout?
Cooking my own meals.
Do you have a favorite meal to cook?
Maybe just like, chicken and rice and some sauce, probably.
Yeah, that's fair.
Basic.
Okay, fair. That's okay. And lastly, for you, would you prefer to leave a legacy on the ice or leave a legacy off of the ice?
That's a tough one. I think maybe off the ice.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's okay to say maybe a little bit of both, but kind of leaning a
Yeah.
little bit more towards off the ice, of course. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right, and that's the game. Always a fun way to start things off and kind of break the ice before we get started. Now, speaking of getting started, let's start things off the way I always do, which is by rewinding and starting where everything started for you. Do you remember the first time that you really fell in love with hockey?
I think when I was younger, it was like mostly just about having fun and being creative and hanging out with friends. But thinking about it, I think when I played my first Worlds with U18 national team, that's when I like realized that it's bigger than just hockey or even bigger than the hockey in Norway. And I think that's when I fell in love with like everything about it, like the atmosphere and the tournaments and putting on like a jersey that means a lot. I think that's when I really love the game and just the competitiveness of it.
Do you remember when it was when you first fell in love with hockey? When you first laced up those skates and took to the ice? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think for me, it actually started playing street hockey with my brother. We play like for hours every single day after school, and then being able to bring that onto the ice and like being comfortable playing with a puck and stick, and then learning to skate. I think that's when I just like fell in love with it. Yeah, and just but like even watching the Zamboni drive around was huge, you know, like everything was just so cool being at the rink. And um, it was cool being with, because me and my brother were the only one playing hockey at our school. So it was awesome to go to the rink and share that experience with a bunch of other kids that love the sport as much as you did. So I think just being able to be in the dressing room with a bunch of players and then stepping on the ice and um, like I'm not much of a runner, so I think just being able to move around fast, like on skates, was something that drew me into the sport.
Okay, and you've touched on it a little bit, and I mentioned it just a moment ago, but there's so many things about your story that are really fascinating and inspiring. Um, but one of those things is that hockey runs in your family. And specifically speaking about your mom, who played for Team Norway. What kind of impact did that have on you growing up? Being able to look and see your mom playing the sport that you were also falling in love with.
I think it had a huge impact. Obviously, she brought us to the rink when we were little, like very, very young. And I think even at 2 years old, like she put the skates on us, and I don't really remember a life without hockey, obviously. Um, So I think just like being at the rink, even though we were not necessarily practicing all the time, just watching other people play and being comfortable being at the rink and the rink being a safe place for me to just play around. And obviously, like her playing on Team Norway was huge. I was able to create female role models from traveling with my dad and my siblings to watch her play, which was like amazing for me to watch.
Yeah, and I think that's really unique to you because in many of my other conversations, that's actually something that's lacked for a lot of women is that, sure they had role models, but often they were the NHL and they were male role models in the sport and things like that. Not often did they have, especially early on, those women that were strong women who were, great role models, great influences. And not only did you have that, obviously in the family, but you also were surrounded by it really consistently, which I think obviously lends itself to helping develop your character, the kind of character that you are away from the ice. Um, did you did she share did your mom rather share any advice to you as you were growing up early on and maybe, more recently as your career has progressed?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, every Friday night she would bring out the board and draw stuff to me and my brother. So just like hockey in general, like the tactics behind it and all that. She would always tell me that as long as I like that it's okay to make mistakes, and as long as I do nine things right and have one mistake, then you can't really ask for more. So she taught me to play in a way that like not to be scared, and to dare to play your game, which I think gave me a lot of confidence. And all my friends my age went up to the women's team a year before me or the national team a year before me. Like, I guess I was a late bloomer in a way. Um, but she would always tell me that it's better to make the next level when you're actually ready for it, when you're comfortable carrying the puck, when you have the physicality for it, and so on. And told me to be patient with it because obviously that was tough watching all your friends being able to play with the older ladies and all that. But she told me that I would eventually break the code and figure out my game, which I'm really grateful for now, obviously.
Those sort of lessons that your mom taught you early on, are you still finding yourself kind of um, thinking about those things now and kind of revisiting them anytime that you're, wondering about where your own career is, where you want it to go, as sort of a motivation, as sort of a positive influence on you?
Yeah, for sure. I even think both of my parents have been really tough on us in a way. And like, if we were to fall on the ice when we were little, like we knew that they were not running down to pick us up. Like you had to stand up on your own feet every time. So I think both of them has taught us to be tough in that aspect. So I think I bring a lot of that with me with all my like journeys and all the teams I played on. And I mean, she still gives me a lot of advice, her and my dad. So just bringing that along, and everyone, or I feel like a lot of people are having like crazy hockey dads, but I guess I had more of a crazy hockey mom with a lot of opinions. So you got to take some and then yeah, block out some, but
Yeah, it's
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 good.
both good and a bad thing at times.
Yeah,
Yes.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Um, could you maybe talk as well about what you remember most about those early days in Norway, playing hockey, and maybe both at the rink, but also just what was the culture like growing up for you around the sport?
So the hot like Norway's not a big hockey nation. It's getting better, but I mean, still to this day, I hear people say, "Oh, I didn't know women play hockey." So just growing up, it was always like in general, hockey is a small sport. So like I said, me and my brother were the only one playing at our school and stuff. So we would always be called like, "Oh, Emma the hockey girl," and my friends that don't play hockey still call me like Emma the hockey girl. So I think just like playing a smaller sport was kind of cool in a way because hockey is so intense. So, and in my city, there's only one team. So it's hard to like move around kind of like you're stuck with that team and you have to figure it out. So I think hockey in general is so like either you're all in or you're all out. Um, so growing up, I was actually really unsure if I wanted to go for soccer or hockey because I really could see myself being a soccer star. Like I always wanted to play soccer, and then I had someone tell me that they think I should go for soccer instead of hockey, and that I wouldn't really reach far in hockey. And I think that can kind of just like pushed me more to choose hockey and prove them wrong, and that gave me that fire in me that I was just like gonna prove that person wrong, like I said.
Do you ever kind of wonder, like, maybe I should have listened to that person and pursued soccer, or is it? Are you still sitting here saying, you know what? I'm so glad I proved them wrong, and I couldn't be happier with the decision that I made.
I think like when I was really young, soccer is obviously bigger in Norway than hockey is, and Um, I just had so much fun playing with the ball all the time, which is harder with hockey because you do need the ice and stuff. So I was very unsure, like I was very back and forth all the time. But I think like now I would never change it for like anything, obviously. And I think like I don't think I would ever reach as far as I have if I chose soccer in a way. And like I'm obviously really happy I picked hockey, but sometimes it would be nice to play in Spain and just tan.
Yeah, yeah. Rather than being stuck in a cold rink all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's no, that's totally fair. You mentioned before we wrap up, sort of your junior career, if you will. You mentioned that Norway is even to this day not necessarily known for, or maybe have the focus on hockey as other nations around the world do. Considering growing up where the sport that you love the most, well, I guess a close tie between soccer and hockey, of course, but that you're leaning more towards, there isn't this focus on, that there isn't necessarily this investment in, there aren't, as you mentioned, there's only one team. How did you persevere?
So I think, well, obviously, I think I fell a lot more into the sport of hockey than soccer, and I think just like everything about hockey I love so much. And I was really lucky because I played with the boys, like with boys growing up. But I also had a group of girls that I played with. So I was kind of in that generation where, like, after my year, most girls only played with girls. Um, but just having like I think we were 5, 6 girls my age that played together and still played on Team Norway to this date. And I think just us holding together and like sharing that all those experiences together really um, like helped me in a way, I guess. And even though it's not that big in my city or in Norway, it still felt like big when you came to the rink and you know everyone and all that. So I think that plays a part, but also obviously my mom loving the sport so much and showing us a bunch of things and being able to see worlds and watch all those like amazing women hockey players play at the highest level, um, like gave me something that I didn't think I would kind of find anywhere else, I guess.
Mhm. Well, and I think you've provided the perfect segue because I wanted to talk about your international experiences. Um, and that includes things like world championships, things like the Olympic qualifiers. Now, you had mentioned earlier about the pride that you had putting on that jersey, but maybe expand on that. When you think back to all of those opportunities that you've had to represent your country, what does that mean to you, and what were some of the biggest lessons and biggest experiences that helped you grow through those opportunities?
It's actually kind of funny because the so me and my dad and my siblings went to watch my mom play her last Worlds in Austria, and that happened to be the same rink that I played my first Worlds at with Team Norway. So that's kind
Whoa,
of weird.
look at
Yeah.
that. That's incredible. How amazing is
Uh,
that?
yeah. So I think when I put the jersey on, I was obviously very nervous, but also honored. And moving forward to like more recent tournaments, when having a bigger role on the team and more responsibility on the team, I think you learn like so much every tournament, whether it's worlds or qualification, even the camps, you learn a lot, I think. And um, like growing into a role where more is on your shoulders than it was when you were younger, I think I've learned so many lessons on how to deal with the pressure or how to kind of get out of your own bubble in a way. Because especially when I was younger, I created this bubble for myself where I could get really intense because I play with a lot of emotions and a lot of heart, and like I'm so eager to win that sometimes it could get a little bit too much, I think. So just growing with the game and learning how to like see the bigger picture, I guess, in things helped me a lot. You learn a lot every time, and how to play at certain times or when things doesn't really go your way and how to deal with that on the team, and even when it goes like the right way, to learn from that and bring that with you.
And you've had the opportunity to move into a leadership role in the on the international stage. For you, what does leadership mean?
So I think leadership comes in many different ways, and a team needs a lot of different types of leadership. And I think being a leader on Team Norway has a lot of challenges, but also a lot of positive things with it. But being on a team that almost every single game you play is an intense game and is a very important game, I think that there's so few chances of making right decisions in a way. Like you're together for such a short time, and you have 5 games in 7 days where you have to perform at your best. There's so many things. So I think as a leader, it's more about like who you are. I think how you are every single day kind of you take that with you on those tournaments. And I think even like taking a penalty at those games as a leader, like you feel that extra from when I wasn't like didn't wear a letter. I didn't feel it at like at the same amount as I do now, I would say. And I think just really playing for the team and really blocking every single shot and like showing every single one that you are going in 100%, because then you can also ask your teammate for their 100%, I think is really important.
And how do you think over these many years of representing your country, and obviously everywhere else that you've played, we'll get into Mount Royal as well in the SDHL, but how do you think your perspective or perception of leadership has changed? And I should also put the caveat that just because you're wearing a letter doesn't mean you're not a leader. And I think that's what's one of the things
Hmm.
that's really unique about hockey is that yes, it's great to be the captain. Of course, it's great to be the captain or be an assistant, but anyone can have a voice on the team. But for you in particular, I do still want to ask how your perspective on leadership has evolved over these years, and regardless of what tournament you're a part of or what team you're a part of.
Yeah, I think it has changed a lot, even just the way I'm looking at leadership. And I think you're right by saying everyone is a leader in their own way. And I think when I was honored the letter, I wanted to like stay the same and not change too much, even though you do feel more pressure and you do feel like more is on your shoulders, but not to change. As a teammate, like I still try to be loose and like make some jokes and all these things, because that's how I am as a person and that's how I like when I perform the best, that's when I'm loose and joking around. So I think just still bringing that in and not changing a lot is important because obviously you gain that role because of who you are and not necessarily how you're going to change. Um, and I think leadership uh, is like obviously how you perform on the ice and the choices you make there, but also outside of the ice and seeing everyone and making sure that everyone. For me, it's really important that even the youngest player or the newest player also feel like they could be the one making a difference and they could be the one scoring the winning goal and all this thing. So I think leadership comes in so many different ways, but just being like comfortable in your position and your role, and also confident within like who you are and what you stand for.
Well, I can confidently say that that answer for Ottawa Charge fans who are excited about next season, the team taking another step forward and the team having added players through the draft, that answer, having you on board, that answer is definitely going to have them even more excited. When it comes to Norway, Norwegian hockey, all of these things that you've done in your career have been incredible and have helped to put help to recognize Norway as a really great hockey nation. It is continuing to grow. There's obviously even more space for it to grow into. How much pride do you take in being a part of that movement and that progress of however slow it may be, the progress of Norway being a true hockey nation and competing on the international stage and being recognized in places like the PWHL? How much pride do you take in kind of shouldering shouldering Norway?
It's kind of funny just thinking about it and yeah, just look back at all those years and see how much it has changed. But I find it hard also to take a lot of pride in it, even though I obviously do. Living away from Norway for 8 years, it's kind of like that distance where you're like on the national team, but when I lived in Canada for 7 years, I would only meet the team like once a year or maybe twice. But obviously, I love to still watch the league in Norway and see how it grows, and just watching the girls coming from that league onto the national team, um, and even working out with the girls during the summer and listen to their experiences and all this. Like, it's obviously huge, and it has been like the game has been growing a lot in Norway. I do still think that it has a long way to go, obviously, and but it is on the right path. And I think just like finally, I guess having that voice to maybe question the federation and saying like making your voice heard and trying to make it better for the ones coming like underneath you. I think that's something that I'm learning a little now and trying to like change things that I think needs to be changed. And um, yeah, I just think, especially like being in Canada and seeing how things are being run there, or like even in Sweden, how the girls are getting paid and all these types of things. I think Norway has a long way to go, and I think it's time to like step on the gas.
You had said that, or you had mentioned about coming to Canada. Um, so you made that leap and you started out in the Ontario Hockey Academy. What made or what led you to that decision to make the leap all the way across the ocean and start in Canada?
So actually, in Norway, it was more popular before, but I think it still is to move away when you're about like 17, 18, because like if you want to take that next step, you kind of have to make the move to either Sweden or North America. And like I said, how we only had one team, so the coach were always the same, and like everything was always the same in a way. So I kind of needed something new, and my team will win 15-0 my last season against a lot of the teams. So I kind of felt like I needed to make a move to develop as a player, and if I wanted to actually go for hockey, I needed to do something different. I kind of follow Matea Fischer, my teammate on Team Norway now, because she went to OHA, and I wanted to play high level hockey with girls my same, like at the same age as me.
And you continued in Canada as you attended Mount Royal University. What made Mount Royal and staying in Canada, playing in U Sports, although at that point it may have been CIS, but U Sports now, the right decision for you rather than going to the NCAA, as many players do?
So I'm gonna be honest. When I came to Canada first, being European, you mostly just know about NCAA, or at that point, you kind of did. Playing D1 hockey was obviously my goal and what I wanted. And then that didn't work out. And I could go D3, but I felt like that wasn't the right fit for me. So I was kind of unsure on what I wanted to do. I felt like I wasn't getting the best help to find a school of D1. And then all of a sudden, Scott Rivet on MRU called me right before a game, I remember, and told me about his program and Canada West in general and U Sport and how it worked because I just didn't know much about it other than that my Mateo Fisher played for UBC. But then after I had a conversation with him, I started looking more into it, and then I thought that that would be the right fit for me and the perfect level of hockey. And even though I still didn't really know that much about it, I kind of just wanted to go for it. And my parents have always told me that worst case, you just come home. So that's kind of why I committed super late. And I think I committed May the year before I went.
Ooh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Especially when you're hearing stories of a lot of girls are committing in grade nine, like they've just started high
Hmm.
school and they've already committed to where they're going to pursue their collegiate career.
Hmm.
Um, that's great. It worked out really well for you because you had a great
Yeah.
career at MRU. And could you, for a lot of people, and I appreciate the honesty there. For a lot of people, even in Canada, it's just like you go D1. It's NCAA. I think for the longest time, U Sports or CIS, the various iterations or names that it's been called since, there's maybe a perception that the skill level isn't the same, that the financial investment isn't the same, and while those things are true, it's certainly better now than it was before. Again, there's still a lot of room to go there, but it's certainly better than it used to. So, with that in mind, and with the fact that so many people choose to go to NCAA, maybe could you shed light on what your experience was like playing, of course, at MRU, but in U Sports in general, in Canada, and maybe talk about the level of play and some of those things that you enjoyed most.
I mean, I loved my time there. My 5 years were so special, even though I had 1 year with COVID when we didn't play a single game. But Um, for me, it was perfect. I came in and I noticed that Scott had a lot of confidence with me and he put me in a lot of positions where I could succeed but also be challenged. And I just felt like he saw something in me as a player, which gave me a lot of confidence at that level. Um, and I think like throughout all my years, it was the perfect level because it was very high intensity, but at the same time, I felt confident and I was able to play my game, playing those games. And I think U Sport in general is like it's good hockey. And I think people are maybe not so aware of the level of hockey that's being played. Um, I'm obviously more, um, like I know more about Canada West than the other leagues, but in Canada West, like UBC, U of A, MRU, all these teams are like have very high quality players in my opinion, and I think even you see like NCAA in the school and how big they are and all that, but I think like MRU, we were about 13,000 students, I think, and we had four different sports, but still like the community and everything else were so like tight. So I thought it was perfect for me.
You and I don't necessarily want to. I'm always hesitant to talk about awards, individual awards, because I know that hockey is one of those sports where it really is about the team. It's really about, you can only be as successful as the players around you. Um, but I'm going to talk about an individual award right now, and that's the Canada West Defenseman of the Year award that you won in your second to last season with MRU. When you think back to that award, to that successful season, and your time at MRU, What did that recognition mean to you, especially when you consider all those years ago you were told, nah, you should just play soccer?
Well, I was really shocked when I got it, and it was a huge accomplishment for sure. And I think people don't always believe this, but I was always in the shadow of everyone else growing up. Like my teammate Lena Tentnes, like she was top D-man always growing up, and we are from the same city, and we will always compete against each other. But I would always be a few steps behind. Um, Being all of a sudden a player that people notice was really weird for me. But I think it obviously came with the team doing so well, like you said, and um, all of that. But it was just a weird feeling, honestly, and I'm really honored to receive that.
This episode is brought to you by MB Performance Nutrition, fueling the next generation of hockey players. Whether your athlete is just starting out or chasing next level performance, MB Performance Nutrition has free resources to help, like a meal timing guide and protein powder buying checklist. Founded by Melissa Bufunos, a certified holistic nutritionist and former elite hockey player, MB Performance Nutrition also offers one-on-one coaching, team workshops, and more. Learn more at melissabufunos.com. That's MELISSABOUFOUNOS.com. Before we get to your time or the process in which you went through to sign here in Ottawa, I want to also touch on your time in the SDHL. When you think back to that, your experiences in the SDHL, obviously it's rather fresh because you were just there. What was that like for you? What was your experience like going back to back to Europe to play hockey?
I think it was really necessary for me to have a year in Sweden. I obviously went into the draft last year too and didn't get selected, which I think benefited me because I think I'm more prepared now than I was back then. And I think even going from playing university to play SDHL is a big step just with the physicality and to play that more mature game, I would say. So I'm really thankful for my year in Sweden. With the hitting, even in the beginning, I would make turns and then get hit, so I had to kind of learn again how to play a different type of hockey and different way of thinking, even as a demon, using my body more to stop the forwards and stuff like that. So I think for me, it was really good to play a year professional in Sweden, and I think the level in Sweden is very high too. So going from MRU being one of the better players to all of a sudden be surrounded by so many great players also teaches you something mentally, which I think really benefited me overall.
Now, I will say we had the chance to speak with your new general manager, Mike Hirschfeld, here in Ottawa just ahead of the draft. And what's interesting is he said very much the same thing about you that you just said about yourself. They actually had you on their draft list. They wanted to draft you, but they said, just like you did, that they could see how much you would benefit from another year or for a year playing professionally in the SDHL, and specifically said or hinted towards the maturity in your game and how much more excited they are to see that they really liked the player that you were before and now to see that maturity in your game now. Do you see that maturity and that growth, and as you mentioned, especially the physical side of things, how do you see those experiences and those values that you learned in the SDHL now applying to your time in the PWHL?
Yeah, I think a lot of it. I think just with the physical and just kind of knowing when you're going to get hit and when to give a hit and all this, I think that was huge. And obviously, PW is very fast. So I think just the physicality of the game, but also like at MRU, my last year I'll be able to do like spinoramas on the blue line and stuff like that, and because I was able to make up for it if I made a mistake. However, in Sweden, wasn't really able to do that, and I had to play more secure in a way and not so like on the line. So I think just like that way of reading the game, but also there was games where I didn't play OT in Sweden or I didn't play power play and all these types of things that taught me a lot mentally that to handle those barrier in a way, I would say. just growing another year. And also, it's weird going from like focusing on school so much and playing hockey to also just playing hockey when it actually becomes your job is also like a different thing, I would say.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me, because I want to know, um, what was it like for you, and how maybe quickly did you adjust to the fact that you have to balance so many different things? I always say that, like, you know, you have you want to be top in your class, so you want to be focused obviously on being successful academically, but then you also want to be successful professionally, on the ice, and then at some point you might also want to, have a social life and maybe do stuff that's not involving hockey or not involving the books. How did you find that balance between all of those things? And did you? Because I know I don't think I'd be able to find that balance. I think it's all or nothing for me.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I think that you have to reach a certain GPA kind of pushes everyone to actually focus on school and not just forgetting about it. And I think that creates this atmosphere, like this environment on the team that you see girls studying in the hallway or before practice or at the hotel room, and then you join them. So I think there's always this like, yeah, environment that you have to focus on school. So I think that helped me a lot because even growing up, I was never really a smart ass in school. I kind of, hockey was the place or at the rink was the place I wanted to be. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to focus. You're super tired after a long weekend on the road, and then you have to focus in the classroom, and then you maybe have personal things going on they also have to balance out, and then you have to be a good teammate and a good leader, and there's just so many things. But I think that's what's great about the like college experience is that everyone is in the same boat. So you always have someone you can talk to or someone you can get advice for or help. Like especially for me where English is my second language, it was nice to have a lot of teammates helping me out.
Yeah, and it seems to have worked out quite well for you. Again, great collegiate career, a successful time in the SDHL, and now that's led you to this very moment where you have now signed with the Ottawa Charge, one of the newest members of the Charge. Walk us through what that process was like. Obviously, as I had mentioned earlier, there was some quite a bit of familiarity with you from the Ottawa Charge, but maybe just walk us through what that process looked like for you, and what those conversations sounded like.
Yeah, I think it's kind of strange because it all feels like PW is so far and all like you know very little compared to in Sweden. Like I'm mostly doing the meetings with the GMs and I'm mostly like reaching out or they're reaching out to me, like even through Facebook sometimes. Like you feel a lot more closer in that way. So then my agent was able to set me up with a meeting with them. And then a couple days later, I woke up from a text on a Friday and I woke up from a text saying, good morning. Ottawa wants to officially give you a contract. And I remember I saw it at 7 a.m. before work and I was just screaming and I was like, what? Like, there's no way. So I was like, I'm not telling anyone, like, this is not true. And then we obviously had to wait a couple hours for him to wake up because of the time difference. So I was at work at the school I work at. So I was just surrounded by kids and I couldn't think about anything else but like, please wake up, Paul. And then um I obviously didn't have my phone on me, but I got text on my watch saying like, "Hey, like this," and I was just like to all the kids, I was just like, "I don't care what you guys do right now. Like, I need to focus." And then a couple hours later, I said that I'm all in, and then yeah, it was posted the next day, I think. So it
How does
was
it
really cool.
how does it feel that it's like it's officially official? It wasn't a prank. Your agent wasn't joking with you. It's real. How does it feel to? I know that you played professionally, obviously, with the in the SDHL, but in the PWHL, there's obviously such enthusiasm. Ottawa here, definitely
hmm
passionate fans. You're joining a team that made it all the way to the finals. How does it feel that it's official and it's real? Do you have like that pinch me moment? Like, am I really here? You know?
Yeah, I think for the or last week I was still working a lot, so I didn't really have the time to just sit down and just like think about it. It was just everything was happening so fast, and then every now and then I still get like, did I sign with Ottawa? Like it doesn't really like hit me, I guess. But I think, I mean, Ottawa seems like a great organization, and the fan base is unreal, and just like the whole atmosphere. So I was so excited when they wanted to give me a contract.
And when you think about too, you're joining a club, as I mentioned, obviously that saw a ton of success last season, but you're joining a blue line with the likes of veterans like Jocelyn The Rock, as well as Ronja Savalainen. Markowski is expected to be back as well. Joining that club that has such, the blue line has been such a focus, getting more, difficult to play against. They just added Rory Gilday through the draft, which is, talk about difficult to play against, 5'10". How exciting is it to join, obviously, this club, but specifically join that blue line with these players?
I mean, it's huge. Even just Savolainen, I've obviously known about her for a couple years, just being this big European player that plays offensive, but also like is so creative and stuff. I've always like when I signed with SDE, I really was excited to play against her and finally like see how she played because being in Canada, I always knew about her name and I would watch her play every now and then. But I was so excited to play against her. But obviously, she went to PWHL that year, and I just think watching her is amazing. I think I'm gonna learn so much from her, and LaRock too. And now she wears 23, which is my favorite number. So obviously, I have noticed her quite a bit, and I think yeah, it's amazing what she has achieved, and she has so much experience that I'm super excited to learn from.
Before we wrap up, I do want to, for those fans out there who haven't had a chance to see you play, could you maybe share how you view your style of play and what you bring, what elements you bring to a team as well?
I think I'm obviously most known for my offensive game, I think, and um, I like to say that I really enjoy making passes that not everyone see, kind of like in the stands. Maybe you don't think that's an option, but just looking between the stick and the skates or making great passes. And the first pass is always really important to me. And I think just being creative and knowing if I should shoot for a stick or shoot to score and stuff like that. I think just my hockey IQ is something that is one of my strengths.
This conversation, I don't think would be complete if I didn't ask kind of maybe to kind of bookend this conversation around your mom. And when you take to the ice this fall, this winter, in the PWHL with the Ottawa Charge, again, like I've said a couple of times, you'll be the first Norwegian player in the PWHL. And that's kind of a full circle moment almost, especially when you consider the impact that your mom and her legacy has had on you right from day one. How does that feel for you, knowing that you're going to be stepping onto the ice as the first Norwegian player and you had your mom as such an influence, your parents, of course, but specifically in this case, your mom is such a positive influence on you?
I think I think it'll help me a lot, and I think just how she has like thought us about the game, and she's always been there in our ups and downs, and she can relate in so many ways. And just what like knowing her story, playing with the Zamboni guys, and like getting all the ice that she could and playing skates that are way too big for her, and all these challenges that she met. I think that is like she's kind of given that to us too in a way on how we see like challenges and stuff. And I think just the way she always had her back straight and would always figure out a solution. And um, even if she got like stepped on, she would always come back up. And I think with that, how I said earlier, and how they haven't really been easy on us, or like they've always told us to figure it out. And I think that really, like, I think that's where I get my confidence from, is that I know there will always be a way out or figure it out.
As we touched upon earlier, you had the opportunity to look up to a lot of incredible role models, women in the sport. And now more and more young girls have that same opportunity here in North America, across the world, of course, but specifically here in North America with the PWHL. When you think about the fact that, again, you're stepping onto the ice in your first season in the PWHL, one of many, I'm sure, but you're stepping on and you're going to be looked up to by the next generation. There are going to be young girls in the stands who are looking to get your signature, looking to get pictures with you. They're going to be following every game. They're going to be buying your jersey. How does it feel knowing that you're now a role model, much like those role models were for you growing up?
It honestly feels kind of surreal. Um, but I think it's so cool. Even Worlds in Czech this year, where all like there's so many fans and fans wanting pucks and stuff. Like it was like such a cool experience, and I think like being a role model comes with a lot of responsibilities. But I think it's so cool for those younger players to like see that there's a future within hockey. And I even getting small Norwegian girls that follows me on Instagram, and sometimes I click on them and it says my dream is to play in PW. Like it's crazy because growing up I never had that opportunity obviously. So it's so cool to see that like I put Norway on the map in a way, and that maybe all these other girls can also achieve that. So it's obviously huge, and I think it's really cool how all the teams in PETA really take their time to talk to fans and give fans like signatures and all this, and I think that just creates a whole like cool atmosphere where it's really like the PW is so hyped up because they take care of everyone that watches it.
I can't wait for you to hit the ice. I know I speak for all Ottawa Charge fans in saying that. So, before I move on to the last segment, good luck in this upcoming season. You're going to crush it. It's going to be fantastic for you, and I can't wait to see you at the ice.
Thank you, I really appreciate that.
All right, and before we wrap things up, we're going to play a game called the Rapid Fire Question segment of the show. Are you ready to
Yeah.
take the test?
Yeah,
Okay. What is your go-to pregame meal?
pasta and like red sauce or meat sauce.
What is your favorite cheat meal or treat? It might be that your favorite chocolates, but what's your favorite cheat meal or treat?
Cheat meal is probably taco, and one of my favorite Canadian sweets is milk duds.
Oh,
Yeah,
heyo,
they
good.
don't have it in Europe.
Yeah, good choice. Oh, yeah,
hmm
that's up there for me.
hmm
I can never just have one though. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Um, what do you have any superstitions or pregame rituals?
I always put my left side of my equipment on first, like left skate and then left pad, and then I go all the way up.
Okay. What would be your go-to pump-up song?
Honestly, I listen to a lot of Norwegian songs before games, so it has to be a song called Ompa.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll do some research and give you my thoughts on the song.
yeah.
Um, Speaking of music, we're going to kind of keep in that same vein. This past season, specifically, who owned the dressing room music, and what do you remember being played most often?
SDE, it was mostly Kaylee Hammers, and it was honestly mostly Norwegian music, which was crazy considering we're so many different nationalities in there. But
Worked out
yeah,
well for you.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
can't complain.
Uh, was there any Oompa played or anything like that, or was
A
it?
lot,
Yeah, okay.
every game day.
Good, good. What is one thing that people don't know about you?
Probably that I like to be creative and like paint and write and stuff, but I'm not good at it. I just like to do it.
Hey, that's all that matters. As long as you
Yeah,
enjoy it, it doesn't matter if you're good or not. I like that, although I'm
yeah.
sure you are. Um, if your teammates had to describe you in one word, what do you think they'd say?
Competitive.
Wow, no hesitation. I like that. Okay. What's something that remains on your bucket list?
Skydiving.
Oh, good choice. Okay, great. If you could go back and give your younger self some advice, what would you say? Don't listen to that guy who told you to play soccer instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably that it'll end up okay and to not like feel too deeply into it or like think too much about it.
Okay. Yeah. Just go with your gut. You don't have to overthink it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. And lastly, what is one non hockey ritual or habit that you have that kind of keeps you grounded?
I think just reading books, but also talking to my non-hockey friends just in general. Like even when I told them that I signed with Ottawa, they were like jumping around, they're like, "Yay, yay!" And then they're like, "So what does that mean?" I'm like, "Yeah,
Perfect. This keeps me grounded. I like this.
yeah."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a fantastic answer and a great note to end today's conversation on. Emma, thank you once again so much for joining me and sharing your story from growing up in Norway and learning the game from your mom to your time at Mount Royal to this exciting new chapter in the PWHL with the Ottawa Charge. I can't wait to see you hit the ice and to keep following your journey. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Course. And if you enjoyed this episode as much as we both did, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow hockey fans. Your support helps us to grow and bring you more inspiring stories just like this one from around the world of women's hockey. I'm Chris Sinclair. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on Rinkside Rundown.